Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. I haven't done a video like this pretty much ever. I have talked about my experience with MLMs before, but today, I'll tell you what. All of this started when I got into, I wouldn't even call it an argument, I guess for the sake of easy explaining, let's call it an argument, on Facebook with someone who is an acquaintance of mine, but like not a close friend or anything. Basically, this person sold Young Living essential oils, okay? And to start off, I am not throwing shade at essential oils in general because I use them myself. Not necessarily the way that people in Young Living use them, but I just use them just like here and there. Like for example, I used to take like 800 milligrams of ibuprofen before bed every single night. That shit is so bad for you, okay? So I started actually using peppermint oil. I just get like weird like neck and shoulder tension and stuff, and it keeps me up at night. But I've found that topically applying peppermint oil took the edge off enough that I didn't need ibuprofen. So that's what I've been doing as far as that goes. Otherwise, like everything else I just kind of use for aromatherapy. Like my sister-in-law actually is a Young Living distributor, I guess. We'll get into that later. That term is a little iffy within the community. But my sister-in-law, her house smells so good. Her car smells so good. It's because she uses so much essential oils, and that's kind of how I started getting to it because I like the way they smell. I have them in little roller bottles and whatever. I'm not hating on essential oils. I'm hating on Young Living. Anyway, we're already getting off track. Back to the Facebook argument. Basically, this chick who sold Young Living essential oils made a post that pretty much said, friends don't let friends buy bad oils. I was at this point in my essential oils journey, if you will, where I was doing enough research about prices pretty much that like Young Living is so expensive. And I started buying my essential oils from a place called Eden's Garden, which is significantly cheaper, and they claim to have sources that are just as ethical pretty much. Young Living makes a lot of claims about the way they distill their oils, where they get them from, blah 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 blah. To me, that kind of stuff, like it matters, but not a ton because I'm not like ingesting them orally, which you shouldn't do, by the way. Don't do that shit. But anyway, it's not really fair to say that if you're not buying Young Living oils that you're buying bad oils, because some people can't afford Young Living. And that's pretty much what I was saying. So she kind of snapped back and we got into just a little thing where I was simply just questioning her. I wanted to know where her head was. And of course, as all MLM employees do, they have a plethora of other MLM distributors in their friends list, and they all decided to jump up on me and start saying that if I had just done a simple Google search, all of the things that this girl was telling me would have been made clear to me. I know how to use Google, okay? I also know how to use Google to look up information that isn't directly from their website. I fucking hate MLMs. I think they are the work of the devil. I think the people who revolve their lives around them are sad and vulnerable people who got caught up in someone else's money-making scheme. That's just my opinion, whatever. So I kind of started going on like, well, I mean, Young Living is an MLM and the prices are high because it's an MLM. We'll get into the MLM business model a little bit later too. Everyone starts like going in, well, MLMs don't spend money on advertising. They get advertisement through the people selling the product, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not why MLM prices are so high. We'll get into it later. But anyway, as I started actually arguing this point, because I do have experience in the MLM culture. I used to sell Gold Canyon candles and Limelight by Alcone. Been there, done that, honey. Like, I understand. So, of course, now I start defending myself, and this girl just decides to delete me. So, whatever, I'm not that upset because really, I don't know this chick. She's just an acquaintance, she's a friend of a friend. Since all of the Huns decided to tell me that I didn't do enough research, I decided to take their advice and do a simple Google search of my own. And what I turned up, holy shit. You guys, Young Living is canceled. We cannot be supporting this company anymore. We shouldn't have been in the first place because this shit goes back literally decades. So what I'd like to start off with talking about is the founder of Young Living. It's a man named Gary Young. He actually passed away last year at the age of 68 due to complications from having multiple strokes. I don't know about you guys, but 68 seems like kind of a young age to pass away these days with, you know, this thing called Western medicine. If you know anything about Young Living, they like to preach, you know, chemical-free lifestyles, live a long, healthy life, and things like that. So I think it's kind of ironic that Gary Young died so young. But before he died, his wife actually stepped up as the CEO, so it's still like a family-owned business. The wife is now in charge of all of this. But before Gary Young died, many years ago, he briefly studied therapeutic massage, although he did not complete the course of study in which he was in. In 1982, this is how far back this goes, guys. In 1982, he opened up his own healthcare clinic in Spokane, Washington. I hope I'm saying that right. It was called Golden 6 Health World, and it essentially offered unlicensed medical services, which, by the way, is against the law. Was against the law back then too. This is where shit gets fucked up. When I first read this, I was literally triggered. I am a mother myself to a beautiful almost 3-year-old baby. She's like a kid now. Since I've had her, I've suffered the loss of 2 miscarriages. So I understand child loss, you know, it's a really hard thing, and it's a really upsetting thing that people have to go through. So when I first read what I'm about to tell you, I got really upset. According to an article published in the Spokane Chronicle on Thursday, October 7th, 1982. The title of the article is Water Birth Tragedy. Baby Girl Dies in Whirlpool Bath. Basically, the article tells about a baby who died on September 4th, 1982 in the healthcare facility in which Gary Young owned. The baby had been left submerged underwater after birth for an hour. The infant's death certificate claimed that the cause of death was cardiac arrest. However, the county coroner who was assigned to the case, her name was Lois Shanks. She's also a medical doctor, by the way, like a real medical doctor. She was quoted as saying, I'm gonna read this word for word, "It was a perfectly normal, healthy little girl. There's no reason why she should not have lived." In her investigation, she believes that the child was left underwater for too long, in which she could not aerate her lungs when it was removed from the water. Not being able to aerate her lungs could have caused said cardiac arrest. Oh, did I mention that this was Gary Young's own child? This was his child. And he was quoted as saying that the circumstances surrounding this baby's death are, quote unquote, bullshit. Because according to him, babies can still receive oxygen through the umbilical cord for up to an hour. This is what Gary Young claims. He claims that the benefits of having a water birth and not immediately taking the child out of the water gives the newborn baby a chance to adjust to life outside of the womb. Now, in my further research, I took this a little bit further because I wanted to know how true this claim was. It's actually a kind of viable claim, assuming that the placenta is still attached to the inside of the mother's uterus. Because if the placenta is not still attached and receiving blood flow from the mother, the umbilical cord, it's not self-sufficient. It needs the placenta to do the thing that it does. So it must be attached to the placenta in order to keep the baby alive. Speaking from personal experience, which obviously isn't a form of proof, but after I had my daughter and I had a pretty normal vaginal delivery, the placenta came right after her. Like, I mean, within 5 to 10 minutes. And my body naturally did that. And I don't think that this is a totally unusual thing for the placenta to detach itself and come out that fast. I think that's a pretty normal thing to happen. But given that, I mean, it must have detached minutes after her birth. Certainly not an hour. This is all my personal experience here. I'm not saying it's fact for everybody else, but I do know that I was not an unusual case. But now at this time though, that this was all happening, so this was back in the early 80s, and water births were still a pretty new idea in this country. When you read the article, it's kind of clear that this is kind of like a new thing back when this article was written. According to the article, it was something that was just recently starting to pick up traction in like TV shows and news articles and magazines and things like that. Anyway, with this incident, the death was ruled as an accident and no charges were filed. So Gary Young got off scot-free. According to the coroner, since she said that this baby would have otherwise lived, it was a healthy baby, I don't see why we didn't charge Gary Young for fucking murder. I understand that, you know, the death certificate said it was an accident. You can't charge someone with murder if it was an accident. Manslaughter at the least, like, I don't know. This was very clearly irresponsible doctor work, medical work, whatever you want to call it. It was all irresponsible. No one can say for sure, but I personally believe that if that baby had been delivered normally in a hospital with a doctor who knows what the fuck they're doing, that baby would have had a much higher chance of survival. It's just very upsetting to me to know that someone would so irresponsibly take control of their baby's life. So that all happened in 1982. Fast forward just a little bit to 1983. When Gary Young was 33 years old, an undercover Washington State police officer approached him about performing an underwater birth for himself and his said pregnant wife. This was all as part of an effort to police all registered professions. Basically, they're trying to protect doctors who actually have a license and the right to practice the things that they practice. So Gary Young offered his services to this undercover police officer, which, as I said, were unlicensed, unethical. He also offered to treat the cancer of this police officer's mother. And after all of this, Gary Young was arrested for practicing medicine without a license, leading to a simple misdemeanor conviction. Okay, I feel like given this man's background, this dude really should have been locked up, but I digress. So 3 years later, a reporter for the LA Times decided to test the veracity of Young's clinical diagnosi. This reporter submitted cat and chicken blood to Gary Young's facilities to have them tested. And the results came back that the patient had an aggressive form of cancer and liver disease. These blood samples did not come from a human being. They came from a cat and a chicken. So in 1993, Gary Young started Young Living Essential Oils. Just a few years prior to that, he started cultivating his own plants and started like tinkering around with distillation units and processes and all that. So he was starting to make his own oils. And basically between 1993 and 2014, he just built his business. And as we all know now, we see that it is an MLM multi-level marketing company. It obviously has had a lot of years to evolve into what it is now, but we're going to pause here in September of 2014, where the US Food and Drug Administration, so the FDA, warned Young Living against the claims that they were making. So they were essentially saying that back in this year that this was happening, this was 2014, Ebola was a thing. Young Living Essential Oils was making claims that their oils literally cured Ebola. I mean, talk about fear-mongering and marketing to people who are vulnerable and scared. I'm going to read this list of diseases that Young Living was claiming that they could cure with their essential oils. So, they claimed that they could be possible treatments or cures for the following: Parkinson's disease, autism, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, insomnia, heart disease, post-traumatic stress disorder, dementia, and multiple sclerosis. So basically the FDA said these need to be diagnosed by a doctor and treated by a doctor. The people who were making these claims were not medical professionals. These were really dangerous claims to be making. Given the severity of some of these, like, hello, it is so irresponsible to make the claims that Young Living was making at this time, because you're literally gambling with people's lives and giving them other options that really, there is no scientific evidence that any essential oil cures any of this shit. And that's why the FDA was getting in on this, because they're like, hello, like you can't be doing this. So in my simple Google search, one of the first things I stumbled across was this blog post made in 2016 by a blog called Holistic Essentials, where this woman began chronicling her experience. So basically this woman had gotten on a Facebook group, probably about essential oils, maybe even Young Living. But someone in this group had sent off a sample of the cinnamon bark essential oil by Young Living to a independent lab, and it was found to be cut with synthetics, which Young Living is very adamant about saying that all their shit is pure. They own all their distilleries and the places they get their plants from and all that. They're very adamant about advertising things that way, about their products being pure. She was a distributor with Young Living for a few years before this, and she had been spending money and using these essential oils for years. So obviously she's distraught, okay? She has built so many beliefs and trusted these essential oils so much that when she saw this post, she sent an email to Young Living's customer support and got a basic response back, as most companies do. But she took matters into her own hands and she did the same thing. And she decided to send her personal sample to another independent lab at her own expense. She bought a brand new bottle from Young Living's online retailer and had it shipped to this independent lab so that she wouldn't be claimed to be tampering with it or whatever. And guess the fuck what, baby? That was also cut with synthetics. The previous year, she had emailed Young Living basically just asking why they didn't publicize their testing reports, and they responded by saying, well, if we did that, we'd have to give up our secrets, pretty much. Sounds like a freaking excuse to me, but whatever. So of course she went public with all this information too, and she was contacted by a lot of other Young Living associates or distributors or whatever you want to call it, who were also frustrated with the lack of answers that they were getting from Young Living. And they were all having issues too with their upline. Like, you would go to their upline and they would give them basic generic answers like, I've been using these for so long and I'm fine. But it's really unfair to expect your downline to just settle for that, especially when you're selling these products to your family and your friends. So a lot of these other women also did the same thing. They had their own blend of the cinnamon bark oil from Young Living, and they specifically made sure that they were going to send in samples from different batch numbers. They came back to be cut with synthetics, as well as Young Living's oh so magical Thieves blend. If you know anything about Young Living, they're always pushing Thieves. They have like dish soaps and laundry detergent, and this particular blend that people sent in also came back to be cut with synthetics. Young Living came out after this and made a statement saying that this all was one big smear campaign. It's clear to me that their tactic was just to avoid everything. The blog's author had been a faithful member to Young Living for many years, and they made her feel like she wasn't valuable to them. And if you go and read this blog word for word, which I will link down in the description, it's very clear that she is upset about this whole situation. This isn't a smear campaign in her eyes. This is I've been duped by a company that I've been paying into for years, and they're giving me nothing more than avoidance, denial. Like, she's not coming from a place of hatefulness or resentment. Like, she is coming from a place of feeling lied to and betrayed. I mean, it's entirely possible with their range of products. Who's to say that there's just one of them that was cut synthetically? Imagine putting something in your body, thinking it's one thing, and then finding out that it's not what you thought it was. Like, that's scary. And especially with the poor execution of the way people on the corporate level handled those claims. Anyway, following this blog post, this woman was contacted by a Young Living customer service support representative or whatever, and basically told her that if she didn't take the blog post down, that they were going to cancel her membership because she was in violation of membership guidelines, policies, and procedures. But she chose to leave her blog post up because she wasn't gonna sit there and be bullied by these people who were giving her no answers. Following all this, Young Living did release a statement saying, pretty much just saying what they always say, like, our oils are pure, blah, 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 blah. This was a smear campaign. But there was zero documentation to back up any of the claims they were making. And to this day, you're not gonna find that. They don't document these things. They just expect the people who buy them to believe everything they say. Now, if that didn't seem like enough bullshittery for you, let me throw this on you. A little over a year ago, so January 2018, Young Living was served with a lawsuit that claimed that they had violated the Lacey Act. I'd never heard of the Lacey Act when I read this, so I did a quick simple Google search. And basically the Lacey Act is a law that says you can't illegally traffic wildlife, including plants, and that they were also in violation of the Endangered Species Act, and they were ordered to pay $760,000 in fines. And they agreed to implement a comprehensive compliance program. The lawsuit and all of its details is all public record. I'll leave the link down below. You can read all about it. Basically though, long story short, they pled guilty to illegally trafficking rosewood oil and spikenard oil in the form of importing illegally harvested wood and timber, which threatens forest resources all around the world. They admitted to doing this intentionally and substantially. At least they're admitting and complying with something. They're not trying to hide this, probably because there was a lot more legal implications here, and we all know that they can afford to pay the $760,000 fine. And I feel like everything I've talked about here is kind of just the tip of the iceberg. I can guarantee that if you continue digging, you'll find plenty of other stories, plenty of other instances in which Young Living seems questionable at best. And after everything that I'm talking about here and the things that I haven't talked about, you may be wondering to yourself, why are people still buying into this company? Why are people still involving themselves in this company? And the best answer that I can come up with for you is that they are easily impressionable people who succumb to the cult-like mentality of an MLM company. As a matter of fact, Young Living has over 3 million members worldwide right now. Their members are also distributors. So there's 3 million people in this world who can sell and distribute Young Living oils. However, only 6% of these members, which is still a pretty good number of people, are actually selling these oils in return for profit. So a lot of them, a large majority of them, are just members in order to get the wholesale pricing. If you go on their website, you'll see 2 different prices. So there's like the members price, which is the wholesale price, which is cheaper than just the regular retail price. I say cheaper very lightly because these oils are still severely overpriced. But because of this leads a lot of members to say like, well, I'm not a distributor. They denounce the fact that they're part of an MLM. When in the grand scheme of things, they're still part of this MLM. Legally and contractually, if you're a member, you also can be a distributor. If you want to be a member of Young Living, even if you just want to take advantage of the wholesale pricing, you're obligated to buy one of their starter kits, which the cheapest one I could find, I've seen a lot of numbers thrown out everywhere, but on the website when I went and pretended I wanted to sign up for Young Living, the cheapest one they told me I could buy was $160. So basically you're buying into this membership with Young Living. They give you a starter pack with like however many oils. Then if you only plan on buying, you have to spend at least $50 a year to keep your membership, which is easy to do because like I've said, they're very expensive. And if you want to start making commission off of these sales and start being really a true moving part to the MLM machine, you have to spend $50 per month in order to keep your level of membership. That's why you see all these people with stacks and stacks of Young Living essential oils, thousands of dollars that have gone into buying these oils. No matter what membership you decide on, no matter what method to being part of Young Living you decide to do, you still have to follow the rules and regulations of any distributor. I may sound a little confusing when I talk about this. A blog post on a blog called Serving Joyfully puts it a lot better than I ever could. So I'm going to read a direct quote from this blog post. They say, "The active selling part is optional, but signing up as a distributor is not optional. By purchasing that initial kit, you are not simply getting a wholesale account. You're signing up to be a distributor, whether you like it or not. This means that you have all of the rules involved with that, including non-compete clauses that prohibit you from selling or representing any other essential oil or wellness products while you're a distributor or for 6 months after you terminate that agreement. They have a very broad definition of the wellness category and your involvement with them. Basically, you can't have anything to do with any other company that involves essential oils. So if you wonder about the loyalty of Young Living distributors, it's at least partly forced by their agreement with Young Living. So if you are a member, you are also a distributor. This is also something that was being argued in this Facebook argument that started this whole thing. I kept using the term distributor and she kept saying, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm a member, not a distributor. Bitch, they're the same thing. It's just whether or not you actively pursue those sales or not. Based on these posts that this particular person was making, sounds like she was trying to make some kind of profit or benefit herself in some way. These people with MLMs like to make you believe that they care about your health and your well-being, and that's why they're posting all this, and that's why they're messaging you with this amazing opportunity. That's not the case. It's because they benefit somehow in one way or another. No one in an MLM is just trying to help people. I'm sorry. That is kind of a broad statement to make, but it's true. Because I don't know of an MLM where you don't have to buy into it. Like, you have to invest your own money into these MLMs, and of course you're gonna do what you can to get your investment back. But that's just how business works. That's how investment works. So as far as Young Living's business model goes, they are an MLM. They use the MLM business model, which is essentially, and I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this in the comments, but it's pretty much a pyramid scheme, just it's legal. From what I understand, since they have a product that they are selling, it's not illegal. But if you've ever looked at any of these charts that show you the way their business model works, it's literally in the shape of a pyramid. Okay, so it's not a pyramid scheme, it's just shaped like a pyramid. Now the argument can be made that regular businesses look like this too. However, the difference of the disbursement of funds is what really changes this around. People who work in a regular traditional business model, even the guys at the very bottom, are receiving either salary or hourly pay. In an MLM, that is not the case. It's all commission based. So you can either sell with an MLM one of two ways. You can either make commission based on the sales that you make individually, so selling the product and making a chunk of that sale back, or a much more lucrative form of making money off an MLM is to sign people up underneath you so that you are making money off of every single sale that all those people make. This is only a lucrative option for a very small percentage of people, because what they like to say is like, okay, so I just sign up 3 friends, and each of those 3 friends sign up 3 friends, and each of those 3 friends sign up 3 friends, and then I've just got this big pyramid underneath me. But not everyone can do that. There are not enough people on this planet for every single person in an MLM to have this empire. There is not an infinite number of people in this world. Talking about all this always makes the boss babes really angry, so like keep a lookout in the comments below. I guarantee there's gonna be a boss babe or 2 or 5 or 10 telling me that I'm wrong. When you're on the bottom of the pyramid, you're basically just buying products to grow your business, a la LuLaRoe. If you've ever heard of LuLaRoe, you know that they're in a shitload of trouble right now, but that's for a whole different video. Young Living is essentially the same way. People buying a lot of product under the disguise that they are doing this to help their family, that these oils are for their health, when really it's to make their upline rich. You are lining the pockets of your upline by being a distributor for Young Living. And unless you can somehow break through that mold and build an empire underneath you, which good luck, there's already 3 million people doing this in Young Living, then you're really just spending money for nothing. To get a better idea of what I'm talking about here as far as the MLM business structure goes, it's as simple as Wikipedia. The Wikipedia article on multi-level marketing companies says this, and I quote, "According to a report that studied the business models of 350 MLMs published on the Federal Trade Commission's website, at least 99% of people who join MLM companies lose money. Nonetheless, MLMs function because downline participants are encouraged to hold on to the belief that they can achieve large returns, while the statistical improbability of this is de-emphasized. MLMs have been made illegal or otherwise strictly regulated in some jurisdictions as a mere variation of the traditional pyramid scheme." Like, there are places legally where you can't even join these because it's a fucking pyramid scheme, or a variation of it at the very least. It's extremely wrong, and I've fallen victim to it. I know a lot of other people have. If you want more information or, anecdotal evidence of how shitty MLMs are, I seriously encourage you to check the subreddit AntiMLM. I troll it all day long. I love it because really there's a lot of things you can learn from it, and seeing other people's stories and experiences really is a good way to make sure you never fall into that shit. Anyway, to summarize, Gary Young was a lying piece of shit fake doctor who built an empire after he murdered his own baby, and all of the claims that Young Living distributors try to make about what these oils can do for your health, none of them are scientifically proven. Don't ever ingest essential oils. No ethical doctor is going to tell you that that's a safe thing to do. And don't buy into MLMs. And maybe if your idea of doing research is just to go on the company's website and pull all this shit off of that, you need to learn how to research a little bit better. I haven't really done an investigative video like this before, so I am very new at this, but I at least know not to trust shit off of the website of the people that you're trying to investigate. If you really want to dig to the root of something and really find out what something's all about, check your sources and have a lot of them, really. Anyway, I think that's about it. I've done a lot of talking here. I really just wanted to bring this all to light, mostly just because of the irresponsible medical practices of Gary Young, resulting in the death of his daughter. This whole company is built on lies and manipulation. If you want to learn more about MLMs, there's going to be some links down below too. There's a lot of great YouTube channels. One of my favorites is Genetically Modified Skeptic, which I'm going to link him down below, of course. He has a lot more more experience within the Young Living community, as he had been pretty much recruited by, I think, his own mother. He has a lot more to say about the Young Living situation. Anti-MLM, great place to start. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you learned something here, and I hope that you'll think twice about buying anything from Young Living. There are a lot of other reputable, ethical sellers of essential oils if that's what you're into. And I will also link those down below. And that's it, I guess. Young Living is canceled. All right, I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.